It's Ken Harbaugh with Against All Enemies on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm going to play a pro-Trump ad for you that, if you didn't know better, you'd think was a joke. All credit to our own Ron Filipkowski for digging this one up. You're going to laugh, you're going to cringe, but I'm sharing it because it provides a window into how evangelicals have shifted their thinking on Donald Trump. If we're going to beat him in November, we need to understand how his most zealous followers think. I spoke with Rick Wilson, co-founder of the Lincoln Project, about it. First, here's the clip. Okay, I got to jump in here because we just got flagged for the music used in this god-awful ad. So I'm going to narrate and just take my word for it. The soundtrack is every bit as bad as the lyrics. The video has your typical hero shots of Donald Trump and a song that goes like this. He gets in trouble bigly, time after time. He's controversial, but one thing is true. Imperfect people a perfect God can use. I'm standing with the chosen one. Ain't no stopping what the Lord's begun. He's only human like you and me. Just the chosen one. He's the chosen one. And it goes on from there. I cannot wait to get Rick Wilson's reaction as a master political ad maker. Here he is. So, Rick, this is something we are seeing again and again and again, this pivot away from Trump as the Cyrus figure, the useful idiot, if you will, to the anointed one, a figure chosen by God to lead this beleaguered movement. I mean, that's another thing altogether, the idea that it's tough to be a Christian in America, right? That's part of it. Oh,
yes. You know, white evangelical Christians, they have a hard time getting housing, the right to vote, education. This country is just so brutal to them. It's so awful. They're basically living under the wrath of Pharaoh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. We've had Kristen Dumais and Angela Danker and Tim Alberta picking that apart. I want your take on the politics, because it doesn't seem like that grievance-based message can grow. I mean, it is not an inclusive movement in any way. It's a radicalizing movement that I think can work in the short term in terms of turning out that core base. But do you see a future in this kind of politics?
No, I really don't. There's a tactical nature to this that I think we shouldn't underestimate its tactical utility, but it is also bounded because of that in a way that I think is really it doesn't reflect a modern American culture and society that exists in the world. It reflects this nostalgia, this hostility to modernity and progress. And I say that I'm not a guy who wants to live in a concrete architectural nightmare and put up a silver pole at Christmas. I say that as somebody who thinks that religious faith has a big role to play in American life, but not in American political life, not in determining whether you put your personal religious beliefs above the law and the Constitution. That's where the Constitution put in a firewall. And it's interesting because a lot of the Christian nationalists 5 years ago were also like, I'm a strict constitutionalist. Well, up until you want the Constitution to be put aside so that your religious intent is embedded in our law and constitutional understanding of the world. So it really is a movement that is post-American and post-constitutional. And I think that should scare the hell out of them, but it doesn't. They really believe they're in this apocalyptic moment. They have to race to the finish line. They have to do this stuff because any minute now we're all going to be minorities or gay or Muslim or whatever fantasy they have about the demographic alteration of American culture and society. It drives them to believe that they have to do this now. And that's why they're willing to exceed any kind of constitutional boundaries or willing to run past trying to run past the goalposts on altering the Constitution to let them act by fiat, to overturn laws they don't like, and to stack the courts in a way that if they can't just overturn them, they're going to get friendly court decisions. And look, they've done a pretty good job in the last 40 years of building a court environment in the country that they wanted. The Federalist Society, whether you love them or hate them, you got to respect them. They did the work they said they would do. And that's the secret of this, Ken. The MAGA movement and the Republican Party, and especially these Christian Nats, always tell you what they're going to do. They can't help it. They brag about it. They talk about it. They always tell you their agenda. And when they tell you we're going to have a white Christian nation, that's what they mean to accomplish. That is their goal. And their avatar in that is Donald Trump.
In some ways, their paranoia is justified if you understand their fear as fear of a disrupted power structure in which they're no longer calling all the shots. If they were being really honest about it, that's what they're fighting to preserve. And they don't have much time left, which I celebrate, which most Americans should celebrate. But
Absolutely.
you said they're fighting to go back to the 1950s or 1850s. And they don't have much time to cross the finish line before they are dead and gone.
They have to execute on this in the next decade. Now, look, I don't want to let folks just think, oh, this is an easy fight. It's not an easy fight. This is a fight where they are going to use every bit of power they have, where they're going to use every bit of money that they're hugely funded, insanely well funded. The idea that they have about a decade to go, demographically, that means that that's where the center of the boomer cohort has died out. That's where they anticipate that the millennial cohort will, as it has traditionally done, become much more conservative, and that the Gen X cohort, and that the millennial cohort will be becoming more conservative. That they understand, though, that after the millennials and Gen Z hit the center of the American political demographic, they're effed. They're in deep water. Gen Z in particular, they are far. Gen Z is an interesting amalgam because they have some libertarian economic beliefs, and they think the system right now is stacked against them. Not in the traditional liberal, way, but they've seen it. They grew up after 9/11, and they saw 2008 screw their families over, and now they saw, the last 10 years of the world becoming less affordable, less amenable. When those people hit the scene, they are far, far, far to the left on social issues, on abortion, on LGBT matters, on individual liberty matters writ large. And so the big bulk, the cohort of Christian nationalists, they come from the late boomers through Gen X and a taste of millennial, but not as intently. Those people will be leaving the scene in 10, 20, 30 years. And so they have to hurry. They have to rush. They believe that it's going to be harder and harder every day to win these battles. And they want to reshape society. And that's, I say this advisedly, but you have to admire the sweep of their ambition. Democrats are like, we want to reduce carbon in the atmosphere from 450 to 325. Okay. We want a 7-day waiting period for a handgun. Okay. We want, electric vehicles. Okay. These people are like, I want to burn down the entire world and reshape society into a Christian patriarchal model that is, that resembles medieval England. Oh well, at least they've got scale. At least they have the ambition, for their movement. They tell you what they're going to do, and they're proud of it.
Thanks for watching, everyone. My full interview with Rick will be out soon on Burn the Boats. I know you'll love it.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.